Hello, everybody. This is Jacob Sapochnik with the Enchanting Glory podcast. This is a show where we interview the most inspiring entrepreneurs, business people, and just inspiring individuals from all over the world that share their ideas with us and help us be better at what we do. And every time that I get to interview somebody that is really, really exceptional and really special, I feel first of all I feel honored, and then I feel a privilege and some sort of an obligation to share what we're going to be talking about with our special guests. And today we have one of those guests where not only she have achieved so much in her life that we can all learn and aspire to, but also she's doing things that are helping change the world. And today I have on the show Helice Sparky Bridges. And I'm going to give a little intro about Helice, and then we'll hear from her remarkable story and what she continues to do. So Helice Sparky Bridges is the First Lady of Acknowledgement. She's the founder of Difference Makers International, a non-profit organization that empowers kids to lead extraordinary lives, one kid, one community, one nation at a time. Sparky is the creator of the world-famous Who I Am Makes a Difference Blue Ribbon, 1-minute 10-step blue ribbon ceremony, and Standing Strong Together community building youth program for teens and adults. Sparky ignites the human spirit and brings out the greatness of all people. She has received recognition along with former First Lady Barbara Bush, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Oliver Stone for her work in raising the self-esteem of children and adults. Sparky's signature, Who I Am Makes a Difference Blue Ribbon story, has been published in Chicken Soup for the Soul and made into a television movie, DVD, and YouTube video with over 3 million views in 3 months. Sparky continues to inspire and change the world, and I'm honored and am happy to have you here. Hello, Helice, how are you?
I'm grand. Thank you for having me on this glorious day, and honor your work, actually, Jacob.
Thank you, Sparky.
Fabulous work.
I appreciate it. So, I wanted to, and I believe that, a lot of our listeners are attorneys and professionals that do great work. And I always like to include in my podcast and not just the, how do we make more money, how do we use the best tools in building our practices. I think understanding why we do what we do, being inspired, I call this the enchanting way, the way we do work at our law firm and just being an attorney. It's important to get inspired and reach beyond what we do on a daily basis. And I think what you do is absolutely remarkable. So I wanted to maybe take a minute for us, for you to tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, I know your story is very, very diverse, but kind of briefly tell us where you started and why you do what you do.
Yeah, I'm. First of all, I want you to know that I'm 73 years young now, and I was 37 years old, and an entrepreneur in real estate and making millions of dollars and having a gorgeous home on the Pacific Ocean, mom of 2 preteen sons, and married to an extraordinary businessman who was also a controlling, a godfather type, a very verbally abusive man.
Mm-hmm.
But I was subservient, even though I was fantastic on the outside and well respected in the business community. So I just want to frame that because what I discovered, I actually was suicidal because of all of the damaging put downs and him always telling me that I was not pretty enough or not smart enough, whatever it was diminishing to my self-worth. And my light went out. I just felt like I didn't matter in the world. Now, this is really important because in 1979, self-esteem conversations of being able to look at ourselves and get our inner strength and not be at effect of other people, this wasn't a conversation at all. I, fortunately, chose to leave my husband. I left my career in 1979. I left everything, and being emotional, I I went and started to look for people who actually build people up instead of put them down. I was needing to be appreciated, respected, and loved to get my self-worth back. And what I noticed is that, for the most part, very few people knew how to actually say things that were uplifting. Most people were complaining or blaming or judging and so forth. So I decided to create a blue ribbon that said, "Who I am makes a difference," and walk up and begin to honor people and tell them how great they were. I figured I might as well just show people how much they were loved and respected. And I did that.
And this was the beginning of Difference Makers International.
Yeah, so what occurred, interestingly enough, is when I started to honor people, it caught on, and everybody wanted a blue ribbon. 35,000 people in the first 3 months that I started as business people, teachers in schools, pastors, rabbis, neighbors, everybody wanted to be honored, and they wanted to honor somebody else. And it got there was a big demand, and I started Difference Makers International, a nonprofit organization, so that every person, children and adults of all ages, would really know that they were appreciated, respected, and loved, and be reminded that who they are made a difference, that their lives were valuable.
Right. And I think this is such a powerful message.
Yeah, I was going to say that today, 40 million people around the world do the work I started, in 12 languages, and our programs, have evolved. Our acknowledgement programs have evolved from there.
And I read somewhere that before you started this in the 80s, you were part of the Hunger Project. So you were traveling and speaking to thousands of people, and I think during that period is when you discovered about people's need for respect, appreciation, and love, which is, to me, is interesting because I see it every day. We all need this. If only somebody got a good word, it's not about the money, it's not about the raise, it's being appreciated. So I'm just curious, how did you find what made you understand that and find out about that need?
That's a great question. So when I left my husband, I reached out I wanted to make a difference in my community, and I never volunteered for any organization before. This is before I started Difference Makers, and I became co-chair for the San Diego Hunger Project. And hearing that 21 kids were starving every minute for lack of food, I thought I could make a difference. And I'd been a millionaire. I could sell real estate. Why not sell people on the concept of doing something to end world hunger? And I spoke to 50,000 people in 1980 in school assemblies and conferences. And people came up to me after, and they said, I'm starving myself. My wife's got cancer. Or a kid would tell me that their dad just lost their job. Or their brother was on drugs. I mean, people just came up and shared the stories that were so disastrous in their lives. And I was listening to them and thinking, please don't tell me anything. I'm going through a divorce.
Right.
I've lost my family, my job, my everything, and I can't do anything for you. But the pleas, what they kept saying, and I grew up in a wonderful family. My parents were great. My mother was youngest of 12. I understood about community and everybody helping each other, and I thought, So and then I created a button that said, "Who I am makes a difference." My Hunger Project game. And I bought 1,000 buttons, and I just went and popped them on people and stopped my kids' teachers, my neighbors. I would just tell them what they were doing right and honor them and say, "I'm cheering you on for your dreams," and a pop-up button on them. And that was the what happened before the blue ribbon ceremony. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That was what got me to sing it.
Beautiful. One of the things that I find fascinating about this, and I see people, colleagues of mine, that are suffering from depression, people that are really lost the will to continue practicing whatever they do. And it's hard because, we have a lot of stress, family, people around us. And, one of the things you do with Who I Am Makes a Difference, with the ceremony, is that you have this thing that you call this change lives in a minute or less. I think you have about seven steps. Why don't we talk about that? Because I think this is really powerful.
Yeah, this is very powerful. By the way, William James, who's the father of American psychology, said the deepest desire in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. So I don't care if you're a multi-billionaire or a mom or a janitor or a general. It doesn't make any difference. I tell you, when a moment a person is honored and acknowledged, they change and they feel as though their lives matter. And until you have that experience, it looks like the more money you get, everything else. So I created a 7-step blue ribbon ceremony with the help of a handful of people, and we went out and honored 35,000 people in the first 3 months, and came back and realized what worked and what didn't about how to honor somebody. And these are the 7 steps. And the first one is just to focus on what's working and find somebody to honor. And just walk up to them with the blue ribbon that we have, and look at them in their eyes and just say their name and say, I have a blue ribbon, and it says who I am makes a difference. And I'm going to do this with you, Jacob, right now, okay? And Jacob, absolutely. I have a blue ribbon, and it says who I am makes a difference, and I'd like to honor you.
Thank you.
And the thing I want to honor you for is that you represent what change is about in today's 21st century. You're about what real people do in this world to acknowledge, respect, appreciate, honor, be vulnerable, tell the truth, and do great work in your being an attorney. But you have the heart of the matter, and it's where people are going now, and where change is happening. And I would love to ask you, would you accept my gift of this blue ribbon?
Absolutely, with great honor and pleasure.
May I have permission to place it on you?
Yes.
I'm taking a little sticky off the back, and I'm going to place this above your heart, pointing up toward all your greatest dreams coming true. And in the ribbon is a community. It's a logo, and it's a community of cheerleaders jumping for your dreams. And in order to get the cheerleaders jumping, saying, Jacob, what's your dream? How can I help you? What do you need? Just to empower you, I'm going to take the spark from my heart and put my index finger on that logo, and I'm going to go, bing, B-I-N-G, bing. And every time you hear a bing, you'll know that someone somewhere just got their dream.
Right. Wow.
And it's tradition for me to give you 2 extra ribbons that you can pay it forward, honor somebody, and tell them how they make a difference.
Beautiful.
And you see, I didn't get a chance to do that with you before. And I just want you to know that we're first learning about each other's work in the world. And by the way, that's what I did was from my heart. But the 7 steps, really, from anybody that's listening, is that I honored you. And then I asked you, would you accept my gift? I waited until you said yes. And then I asked permission. I said, may I place it on you? And I mentioned the heart, because the minute you do that, you can actually connect heart to heart bioenergetically. It's scientific, and it accelerates the oxygen into your brain and makes you think smarter. And actually, that's what happens. And then when I use the Bing, B-I-N-G, while it makes people laugh, people don't laugh so much. So it creates laughter, which enters the cellular memory of 100 trillion cells in your body, and it becomes memorable. The moment in the blue ribbon, all of it becomes memorable. I'm cheering you on for your dreams, asking you what you need, not trying to sell you on what I want, and then pay it forward, giving you 2 extra ribbons, go out and honor others. And that powerful ceremony changes lives in a minute or less.
I can see that. I can see that because, now you feel that you are responsible to carry this forward. And whether you feel bad or depressed or whatever, you know that you've been empowered to help somebody else who probably feels worse than you. I love that.
Yeah, and by the way, the language of who I am experience, the blue ribbon, it's first prize. You can put it on your computer, on your wall. You'll see it in Boeing aircraft. You'll see it in supercars. You'll see it in the big corporations all over the world. You'll see that ribbon on their walls. They'll say that simple conversation has it costs so little, and yet we can't give bonus checks out big enough that people won't walk around with their backpacks with all the bonuses they got. They will always display that ribbon.
Right. No, I mean this is very, very powerful, and I think you have so many stories about the blue ribbon ceremonies and people that you've changed. But there's one in particular that I would like you to share with our listeners about a young 14-year-old boy that you saved, and why don't you share that with us?
Yes, this is a true story, and it happened in New York, and it was a school teacher, a high school teacher who ordered our ribbons, and she decided to go up to each of her students one at a time, look them in the eyes, and tell them how much they mattered to her. And she placed the ribbon with their permission over their hearts and cheered them on for their dreams, and did this with all 30 kids in her high school class. And then she gave them, instead of the traditional 2 extra ribbons, she gave everybody 3 and said, go out, do a community project, honor people, give them a chance to pay it forward, whoever you honor, and come back the following week and tell me what happened. And that afternoon, one of the high school students went to a junior executive, and he actually honored him and thanked him for helping him with his career planning. He placed the ribbon above his heart, cheered him on for his dreams, and gave the junior executive 2 extra ribbons and said, here, go honor somebody and give that person a ribbon so they can honor another. And here's what we don't know about acknowledgement. Later that day, the junior executive went to his grouchy boss, who was known to be a bully, and he walked up to him and he said, sir, I have this blue ribbon for you, and it says who I am makes a difference, and I'd like to honor you for building this company and giving me a job. It makes a big difference to me, and would you accept this blue ribbon, and may I place it on you? Which he did, and he encouraged him and gave him the last ribbon and said, go out, honor somebody. And the boss is driving home that night in New York traffic, wondering who he's going to honor. He's home, and he sits his 14-year-old son down on the sofa, and he looks at him, and he said, son, I have a blue ribbon for you, and I want to honor you and tell you that I love you.
Wow.
And the boy starts to sob and cannot stop crying. And he walks over to a drawer, opens the drawer, pulls out a gun, looks at his dad, and he says, I was planning on committing suicide tomorrow, Dad, because I didn't think you loved me. And now I don't have to.
Wow. This is...
And it was in that one moment that boy's life was saved. And then, because of that, the boss goes back to his company, and he treats everybody with dignity and respect, tells the junior executive what happened, that boy's life was saved, transforms the whole culture of his company, and that junior executive tells the boy in school, who reports it in class, and that story winds up in Chicken Soup for the Soul, a 3-page story, later a television movie, and later it was #1 for 10 weeks on YouTube.
Wow.
And that's why millions of people all over the world contact our nonprofit organization for ribbons, trainings, everything. It came from that moment in time. 1 minute changed a boy's life.
And this is a very powerful story because it's simple. I mean, if you think about it, if you can notice the people around you, if you can acknowledge their presence, you can give them some validation, we don't know how much power that can give to that person to continue with what they do, as opposed to just ignoring them and taking people for granted. And you found a way to make it into a system. Sparky, can you tell me about the power of acknowledgement? And you have this thing, it's a new movement that you've started, Ignite What's Right. And we're talking about the 5 A's.
Yes, of course. And what happened is after we reached 40 million, which is basically a couple years ago, I went, well, there's something bigger that I need to do, but I don't know what it is. And so I brought a bunch of colleagues together. And what I wanted to do is to start the era of acknowledgement, to ignite what's right, to have people focus on what's working instead of what is not working. What difference would it make if you saw what people did right and honored them? Mm-hmm. And so we started the Ignite What's Right global movement for 1 billion, with a B, people being honored, 1 out of every 7 on the planet being honored and told how much their lives mattered. And the 5, we came up with 5 A's for acknowledgement because we're harnessing the power of acknowledgement. It is a language. Instead of looking at blaming and shaming and complaining, we're actually, the 5 A's is uniting unity in a community with appreciation, acknowledgement, awareness, authenticity, and action. And I'm just going to break this down so that we can look at to see how much of what we're doing. Appreciation is listening without judgment. Mm-hmm. Instead of judging a person, if we were just listening to them and hearing what they're doing right and honoring them, what difference would that make? And the second of the 5 A's is acknowledgement, is hearing from the heart, to hear what a person is saying rather than to being able to defend ourselves or give them our opinion. And the third is just being aware, that initiating the language of possibility, proactivity, and prosperity, to be aware that a new language that creates possibility, proactivity, and prosperity is a way that we can speak to people that will reframe every negative emotion. We can transform that in a minute or less to some higher value. And to be authentic is the opportunity is to inspire a communication that really creates dignity and respect among all people. Be authentic, to be vulnerable, compassionate of others. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is to take action, is creating solutions that make the world, the community, country, and world a better place for everyone, to make the world different and better. And what does it take to do that? Sometimes it only takes a minute or less. Mm-hmm. To honor one person and get the experience and pay it forward. It begins there. And by the way, I want to just honor that the 5 A's actually came out of me coaching Teacher of the Year at a high school here in San Diego for a year and a half, who began to use this, and all his kids are getting straight A's, and he said, the class came up with the 5 A's. This high school class came up with the 5 A's and gave it to me.
That's a great.
Said, this is what you taught us. So sometimes we don't know all the answers, but the kids gave it back to us.
And you've been using it in such a powerful way. Again, very simple. Just do one thing. It takes a minute, but you don't know the impact it can have on this person's life and other people's lives.
Yes.
Sparky, I wanted to ask you, if people listening to this now, hopefully they get inspired, they, wherever they are now in the world, how can people get involved in this and help or do this if they want to be part of the ceremony, or if they want to be doing this for other people, if they're a business, if they want to sponsor? Why don't you give us some options here?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I invite people to do is to go online to our website, differencemakersinternational.org, and you can spell it out or send it to them, Jacob, if you'd like.
We'll put it in our show notes. All the links will be in the show notes. Don't worry about it.
Sure. And they can call me directly. By the way, you're welcome to give them my direct line. But I would invite you to order blue ribbons and start honoring people. It's a 7-step ceremony. Do it with your family, your kids, your neighbors, your colleagues, your organization, your church, your synagogue, wherever you feel that you want to, just start it and begin and watch what that happens. For those that want to be a leader in your community and speak and train and bring this into your corporations or so forth, into your schools. We have training programs, community building leadership training programs for elementary, middle, high school, universities, corporations, organizations, religious institutions. I'm going to be keynoting the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War this Saturday. So working with the military, it's anything that you need. We have a training program, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. And then you can be a sponsor for a school or for $7.50 a student. We just had a program for 3,000 high school students for 1 week and then 10-month follow-up. So if you're interested in being a sponsor, you can sponsor as little as $5 all the way up to $500,000. Right. Whatever is in your heart. And then lastly, so it's as simple as one ribbon, and then get some training, and then contribute. But I think that one of the things that's really important to us right now, for anyone that's listening, and this makes sense, this Ignite What's Right global movement for 1 billion is attracting a lot of people buying ribbons, wanting training programs, and we're a nonprofit organization. It's one person that I started. We have a small board of directors and so forth, but what we really want to do is to align with a strategic alliance, a company that really walks this talk that is global. And they have the financial wherewithal to promote the work that we're doing and to align with us, so that it empowers their vision as well as ours. And we wanted to train the trainers in their company so that they can teach and train in their community. And we need a company that's really got a future. They're looking toward the future of what's working and want to align with us. We need you. I don't want to run a big company. I want to teach and train and provide a company that's open to working with us so that you can market, sell it, promote it, and so forth, and we can work together on that.
Excellent.
Does that make some sense, Jacob?
Absolutely. So, if anybody from our listeners who knows somebody or gets inspired to connect you with that kind of company, by all means, they probably will hear from somebody. And Sparky, as we come to the end of our show, I want to ask one thing from you. People who listen here maybe suffering from some sort of depression or feeling down, or they want to quit.
Yeah.
One thing you can say, aside from what you do, based on your experience and the things that you've done to overcome that kind of low, what can we do to overcome that and leap to the next step? If you could share one advice with us, what would that be?
I would say this: the most important thing in the world is to be able to, one, be around people that will just listen to you, so that you can unwind and tell the truth about it. Whatever you're feeling, acknowledge your feelings, but don't stay in them. If you're looking at nothing's working, my health isn't working, the family is not working, and all that, you can say it. But significant problems, as Einstein said, cannot be solved from the same level of thinking that created the problem. So instead of focusing on what's not working and what won't be able to get fixed, reframe that. I take the language higher and say, I am healthy now. I surround myself by healthy, invigorating people. I can change my life. And I can do it now. And I promise you that language will get there faster than the negative focus that we tend to have right now. Look for what's working and honor it. It's not an easy process, but it's worth it.
Beautiful. I appreciate that, Sparky. And this is, again, one of my most inspiring interviews I've done recently. So thank you for your time. And we'll share the link to your organization in our show notes. And if anybody has any questions, they can comment on our the podcast blog or email. They can email me at jacob@enchantinglawyer.com. And once again, Sparky, thank you for the time. I wish you a beautiful day. And thank you, listeners, for listening to the show every week, for your comments, for your emails. You help us continue doing what we do, and we'll continue to provide great content because you listen. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you at our next episode.